Charlie. Welcome back to another Premier League DraftKings Slate breakdown. So, four gamer on our hands. Slightly staggered, but not really. Like, there's a 15-minute gap between the first game and the rest of them. So, basically a normal slate. In terms of the odds, Man United at minus 300, despite how poor they were against Coventry City. Which is kind of crazy, but Sheffield are Sheffield. Everything else, Liverpool are pretty big at minus 250. And then the other two games are kind of toss-ups, essentially. In terms of projected lineups for this first game here, which is Wolves-Bournemouth, got Doherty and 8 Nori at wingback, Sarabia back starting again. In terms of set pieces, mostly Sarabia, maybe Doyle splits. It's just to what extent. It could be a 50-50, could be more Sarabia. So we'll see with them. For Bournemouth, Cook and Christie split. Likely. Although they've been a little weird. Like Cook has taken everything at times. Cook should take something, I imagine. And then everything else is kind of to what degree he splits and whether he splits at all are kind of up in the air at times for Bournemouth. For Crystal Palace Newcastle. For Palace, it should be an Eze and Olise split. I think that's pretty clear cut for me. We saw Adam Wharton take a corner when they both got subbed, but he picked up a knock last game, so they don't even have him in the starting lineup, which would, and even if he wasn't, I just feel like it'll still be Olise and Eze likely. For Newcastle, it could be a little bit of Gordon, a little bit of Murphy, a little bit of Guimaraes. My guess is Gordon right now, but we've seen Murphy take, we've seen Guimaraes take. Like, it's just pretty difficult to suss him out since Trippier went down injured. And he's still not fully fit. But Gordon, I think, is my guess right now. I think he's taken the most recently, although you've seen Murphy take a ton. You've seen Guimaraes take a little bit, so not a certain thing at all for them. For Everton, Liverpool, Dwight McNeil, and maybe a Dwight McNeil monopoly in this team. It's interesting they have no James Garner, no Andre Gomez in the projected lineup, which is a little strange. We could maybe see Ashley Young split, but he hasn't taken in a long time, even without Garner or Gomez there. Like last time it happened, they opted for a McNeil monopoly instead. For Liverpool, it should be a Robertson and Alexander Arnold split, but we could see Szoboszlai maybe up on a couple. Would not be shocked if McAllister even took, but I think that's a little unlikely with Alexander Arnold and Szoboszlai in. And that's them. For Man United, ooh, Christian Eriksen's in projected. When Bruno and Eriksen are both in, they kind of split. It's not exactly like one guy takes one side, the other takes the other. It's kind of whoever feels like taking. I feel like Bruno Fernandes takes more than Eriksen does, though. For Sheffield United, it's gone back to a Hammer McAtee split. Osborne took nothing last game. Arblaster took nothing last game, even though they were the two who were splitting the game before last, which is crazy. They've gone to a completely different split with different people. Just a hard team to get right for sets. Luckily, it shouldn't matter too much considering how much of a dog they are. In terms of prices, most expensive forwards are Eze, Gordon, Cunha, Mo Salah. Now, 9K for Mo Salah, I feel like it's pretty cheap here. He's usually the most expensive forward. I know he's been out of form, but that's pretty cheap for him. After he got rested last game, I feel like he's got to be motivated to kind of bounce back, especially in a derby game. Eze 9,800. It's hard to not play Eze. Like Crystal Palace are such a fun team to watch with Eze and Olise healthy, and Newcastle have not been great recently. They've kind of been like they're not as hot as they definitely were last year. And because of how many games they've played, I think they've been just a little fatigued after a long season. However, they've had a bit of a rest since then, so maybe they bounce back. Gordon, like look at that, 18 crosses against Tottenham. That is crazy. But saying that, they were not overly effective corner kicks. Like 18 crosses, and I don't know if they scored any off of them. Well, they might have. I don't remember. I didn't feel like it feels like it was forever ago. Yeah, 13th it was. But I just am not sure he's locked down sets by any means. And that is a very premium price. I can see the argument for it, but I don't know if I'll get there myself. Mateus Cunha, 9,300. Now, this is a guy who I think is a super good GPP play and a super bad cash play. All the other forward kind of offer a lot more floor than him, and they all probably have similar upside. But because of the amount of options there is, I think Cunha potentially gets overlooked, although it's never really happened before. People see Cunha, they usually play him. I just think at this price point, people finally get off of that a little bit in favor of your Ezes, of your Salah, and maybe your Gordon. I think Eze and Salah will be the most popular two, though. Ishak, 8,700. Is Callum Wilson healthy yet, or is he still injured? Yeah, so still injured. So there's no really threat to Ishak's minutes. Usually goes 90 with no Callum Wilson, and he's been super hot too. But once again, I just don't feel like he has the floor to match some of these other forwards. But once again, good GPP play. Now here's Garnacho. Because of Man United's odds, I would not be surprised if people go here, even with the other kind of high floor options on the slate. Minus 300, pretty big favorite on a Premier League slate. And he's cheaper than those other guys. Like Hoyland 7,600 people might go to too. I was looking at the Man United guys just to see what people might do. How much is Anthony if he plays by some miracle? 6,800. Yeah, people will play that for sure if he's in. But the issue with Garnacho is he's been subbed now 2 games in a row, which is kind of not good. Like you don't want a guy this expensive to be subbed when there's guys who probably go 90 guaranteed, like Eze, like Gordon. I don't want to say like Salah anymore since he's kind of broken that trend recently and getting subbed quite a bit, but mainly in Europa League. Like for Premier League, he usually goes 90. But suppose we'll see. Klopp's been super hard to predict for minutes lately, so it's just difficult. But Garnacho, like I'm scared a little bit of those subs. McNeil, this is not the matchup for me. I'm not really interested. Darwin Nunez, 8K. That's probably fair. If he was a little bit cheaper, I'd much rather. I'd be very happy to go there. Like if he was 7K or something for 8, that's probably a fair price. There's a lot of forward options. I don't know if I'll get there, but I see the argument. Same with Jota. I think he's injured, so not same as Jota. How much was Diaz? I haven't seen him yet. 7,300. I think that could be popular too. That's pretty cheap. So yeah, there's a lot of really nice forward options, like Gakpo too. Like you can really go any of these guys, make an argument for any of these guys, play who you want. I don't know if I necessarily have a core piece from here, just because there's just so many really nice options at forward. Even Rashford, 6,700, that is so cheap. He wasn't even in projected. Is he injured? Muscle injury unknown. So I'd love Rashford if he was in. If he's not, I could get behind Anthony. I know he's not been great in terms of end product, but he's always had a pretty decent floor. Jordan Ayew, 6,200. I doubt he plays, but look at this. He's pretty solid in his minutes. Like he's averaging more than a point every 10 minutes, which is kind of like the benchmark I set. 9 points, I think is a solid kind of score. Then like because of the amount of really good mid to high range forwards, there's not a ton really that I'm interested in down here. I probably just pay up at forward, which kind of makes all of these other guys relatively irrelevant. Trying to find someone who I wouldn't mind throwing in, and I'm not really seeing anyone. Maybe Huang Hee-chan. 5,800 is pretty cheap for that. He's kind of the best one I see. Everyone else is I'm playing in 7 to 9K guy, probably in both my forward slots. For midfielders, Bruno Fernandes will be my first man in. Even with Christian Eriksen, he will go 90 minutes no matter what. Puts up really solid numbers. He doesn't even need to drop a ton of crosses to get that many points. And he just all of his stuff he does adds up. He gets a ton of shots, tons of key passes, tons of goal contributions. Like he's not one of those guys who, I hope he gets 17 crosses like Alfie Doughty, because he kind of has other ways of getting there. Foul strong, key passes, shots. Like I'm just bugging Bruno Fernandes for sure against Sheffield United. No brainer. Michael Elise, the Palace guys are super interesting here. Not the best matchup, but when they're together, they just are filthy. Like they just are so good when both are on the field at the same time. Like you saw against West Ham. 28 points for Eze, or for Elise that was 31 for Eze. Like they're just a nasty duo to play against. Probably one of my favorite kind of combo too in the Premier League. I love they both take set pieces. It's just awesome. But this is the slate where there is at least an argument of fading. Like if we're going Bruno Fernandes for sure, that's a ton of salary taken up. And to play both of them is definitely doable, but it's scary. You're not going to have any Liverpool attackers if you do this kind of build. So that's kind of the debate there. For the rest of these mids, Pedro Neto, is he back like fully? Wasn't even projected. He's still injured. I don't know why DraftKings doesn't have any marking for him. Sarabia, 7K. I don't think Sarabia's a bad play here. He's the cheapest kind of set taker we've seen so far on a pretty favorable matchup at home to Bournemouth. They rested him last game, which means I'm sure he starts this one. He's been slightly hit or miss, but 7K is pretty cheap for him. Look at how much he's been. This is the cheapest he's been in a long time. So Pablo Sarabia, I'm interested in. Murphy, I'm too hesitant on him now with Anthony Gordon taking last game. Staying away from that. Guimaraes, same thing. McAllister, he's been just crazy good. And with all kind of Liverpool's main set piece takers back, I know he's always just kind of found a way to get there. I just don't know if this is the slate for that when there's a ton of super, super nice options who are capable of 30-point scores. Now, Shovelshloy, he's cheaper than McAllister. If there's no Alexander-Arnold, like if they rotate him out, I'll go Shovelshloy for sure. With Alexander-Arnold, I'm a little bit more hesitant on him. He's a guy who gets subbed. Usually, Alexander-Arnold took more set pieces when they were both on together. So, it's probably a no thanks for me for Shovelshloy if Trent is in. Like Tavernier, not sure if he takes set pieces anymore. Like I don't even know if he's out. As a matter of fact, why I don't know why the injuries aren't showing up on this page unless I click on it, but I'll ignore it. Hammer, too bad of a matchup. Harvey Elliott, a little too much. Bradley, he shouldn't be a midfielder. Cook, a little too much. Christie, I don't mind a Ryan. Yeah, I don't mind a Ryan Christie. I like him more than Cook. I think he's a little bit more upside. Probably a fair price at 5,300. James Garner, meh. Curtis Jones. I don't mind a Curtis Jones if he's in. He's been playing a lot of minutes, which surprised me a little bit. He started back to back the Crystal Palace game and the Europa League game, which kind of makes me think that Klopp really trusts him, which surprises me a little bit considering the sheer amount of really solid midfield options they have. Like this is a midfield I'd expect to start most games. But if Curtis Jones somehow worms his way in again, 4,700 is not bad for a guy who gets pretty far up the pitch on one of the biggest favorites on the slate. Same with Gravenberch if he's in. Got that goal last game. That's just cheap Liverpool exposure. 4K Christian Eriksen. Wow, that is cheap. I will play that if he starts. I'm pretty sure about that. 4K is disgustingly cheap for a set piece taker on the biggest favorite. I know it's Man United, who everyone jokes about not being not very good, but they're playing Sheffield United. Like it's worth taking the risk. 4K is so cheap. Like that is wild. If he's in, give me that. He might be my most owned guy if he's in. Alex Scott, he sometimes takes up pieces when in. That's your kind of Ericsson alternative if Ericsson isn't in, and he is. I don't mind that. Tommy Doyle, 3,900 is all right. He just has such a low ceiling. It's kind of gross. But home Bournemouth, like I said, it's not that bad of a matchup. That's not bad value either. But just 4K Christian Eriksen is staring me in the face. Like he's so far clear of all these other guys that I looked at so far. Mason Mount, is he healthy? Slight return to the calf problem. He probably won't play. I'm not gonna look at him too hard. Enzo, 3,500. I just don't think he's a good upside play. Everyone else is whatever for me. I'm not. There's a couple of really nice 3 to 4K guys I point out there. Erickson being my top option. Defenders. Oh, what the? Get me out of here. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold's still underpriced at 5,900. That's a core play for me. Easy plug is Trent Alexander-Arnold 5,900. He was like 7.5 when he was kind of at the peak of his powers. Like you saw him 8K at times. So for sub 6K with this matchup, I'm playing Alexander Arnold all day long. And then I might even go Robertson with him and just go double pay up at defender. Two set piece taking fallbacks. Like I don't know really how much more I need. Then everyone else is a big drop off, especially with Trippier still not in training even. Like Nori, if he plays further up than wing back, I could get behind. But as a wing back, he doesn't have a ton of floor. I don't really love him, especially considering he's not far off of the Liverpool guys. Like I feel like in cash, most people just go Alexander Arnold Robertson. For GPP, like they'll probably be the two most owned defenders then too. But like Joe Gomez, if he gets the start over Alexander Arnold, isn't bad for 4K. But it's kind of whatever. Like I'm so kind of decided that I'm playing those two that I'm probably gonna skip out on this mid range entirely. And I'm probably not even gonna pick that many of them in GPP. Although the one that I am looking at is Diogo Dalot. Super favorable matchup. He's a guy who gets involved when Man United dominate, although that's not often. It should happen here against Sheffield. Like he's not adverse to getting a goal contribution or two. He got one against Coventry. Similar kind of level of matchup here against Sheffield United. 4,700 is not a bad price. So Diogo Dalot, if I'm not playing both of Alexander Arnold or Robertson, I like Dalot. Wan-Bissaka just has not as much upside, so I'm not as in favor of him as opposed to Dalot. And then in instances where I go neither of those guys or any of those guys, I need to pay up defender because I'm stacking one of the tons of attackers or a bunch of the tons of those attackers, then I could see myself definitely dipping into this 2,500 to 3K range. Although I'm not seeing a ton. Like Mark Guehi is super cheap if he's back. He's probably not. I don't think he's healthy still. This is really killing me not having these questionable outmarks on DraftKings. Luke Shaw, I know is injured. Like Toddy Gomez, he kind of plays wide even as a center back in that back three. He was horrible against Arsenal, but Arsenal's a tough matchup. I don't mind going back to there. Dan Burn, if he's a left back, don't mind. Kwanzaa, I love with this matchup. Not just Harry Maguire. Ooh, 3,500 is a little much, but he scored it against Coventry. I can get behind him. Slabhead definitely can head something in off of a hopefully Ericsson or Bruno Fernandes corner. Adam Smith, sure. Lindelof, sure. Van Dyke, 3,200 is super cheap. So yeah, there's a couple of nice punt options if needed. Most people, like I said, go Alexander Arnold Robertson. though in cash. For GPP, definitely can get behind those punts, so I'll have a lot of them there. Here's my core: Alexander-Arnold, Bruno Fernandez, and if he's in, I'm going Erickson in here. Like that'll be my core if projected lineups are correct. If they aren't and they don't go Erickson, I'm still going Bruno. I'm still going Trent. And then I'm a little undecided on the third piece. Man, can I go SA at least? I just want to see if this build is possible. Probably possible, but very tough to do. I might go Robertson, maybe. Thinking about that potentially. Going those two. And third piece, I'm hesitant on putting anyone. I could see Salah maybe. I haven't decided yet. But like I said, Ericsson will be my first choice if in. Then I'd probably make a stand on one of these super nice forward options. I just haven't decided who yet. Maybe Eze, maybe even Gordon. Probably Eze, that just because of the forward eligibility. But that'll be it, guys. So for GPP, definitely I don't mind like Man United stacks for cash. Play set takers. Like Man United are slightly underpriced. Some of them like Anthony, like Rashford if he somehow recovers. But it should be a fun slate. It's pretty wide open. Man United, Liverpool, two teams to target. Everyone else pretty good. Like even the other teams are pretty good for GPP to get behind, like Wolves. And I'll see you guys for the next video. And peace.